Okay, so you're new to dirt bike riding or you want to get into dirt bike riding, we got some beginner tips for you, and hopefully it'll help you out. Check it out right now. Okay, so the first thing to remember is you want to be riding the correct bike for you and your skill set at that time. So one of the big problems is people get a bike that's maybe too big, too fast, whatever, for their first bit of riding. So sometimes the best bike to start with might be something that hopefully you can find a friend or somebody that you can borrow and work in a field. So in an empty area that you can ride with. So you want to learn what bike you can ride. So hopefully you can make it to where you can at least determine the best bike for you. You can go sit at a shop, sit on a bike, and a lot of play bikes out there, CRF 110, 150F, TTR 150. There's plenty of these bikes. TTR, they have a bigger one as well, like a 230 or 250, 230 I think it is. So those play bikes, and KLX has one, Cowie has some too, the KLX 250. These play bike size, we'll call them. Even though they're not real powerful and maybe the most optimal that we see in the motocross or for the off-road guys, is a play bike like that can be a good bike to learn on. Way easier clutch action and shifting, so that can be a really good bike to learn on, and so that can be a good thing to start with before you get too invested into the sport or have a serious crash or injury that keeps you from progressing in the sport. Now, picking out the best bike for your kid. If you're wanting to bring up a kid into the sport, that is another tough issue. And there you want to find, again, the same progression of bike. And it can be expensive to work from bike to bike. It's like tennis shoes when the kids are growing. And with bikes, it's a lot more expensive than tennis shoes. And so if you get the right, correct bike, he might only be good on that bike, or she might only be best for that bike for 6 or 12 months. And then they need to move up to the next size bike. The best bike to start with is one that doesn't require a clutch, that is a semi-automatic or fully automatic, but a semi-automatic where they can just shift, 2 or 3, most of them have 3 speeds, a 110, the KLX has one as well, CRF 110, KLX 110. Those bikes are really nice, but they've become very popular, so they're hard to find a good deal on right now. But those are good bikes to maybe start with and progress up to where they have something that they can progress on. And those are great bikes to get started with for the kids, from a PW50 down at the bottom and working their way up. So picking out that right bike for your kid is something that can be important. With small bikes, it can be tough to find a good deal, like I said, right now, but hopefully you can find family, friends, or other people in your other riding community that will help you find that right bike at a good deal. Thanks for watching so far. Don't forget, when you go to shop at Rocky Mountain ATV MC, click on the link in our description of this video below to help us out. Next is where to ride. This is always a constant question or problem that people run into, especially if they're learning to ride. They need to find an open area where there's not a lot around, not a lot of things to hit. And I just when I was first married, my friend, my wife's best friend, came over with her husband. He wanted to ride my bike. It was an RM250 two-stroke. I thought he knew what he was doing. He said he did. Oh yeah, he hopped on like he knew what he was doing, and he took off and he crashed the bike and just hit into my truck, right there where we were. So that's how bad. I didn't know. So not everyone knows how to ride, and I just assumed that they did. So you want to get into a big open area with not a lot around, lot of ruts and different things that they can get hurt on. So if you can find this empty area, that's nice. You can find an empty area to do so. Like places like Glen Helen out here in California, they have big open parking lots where they can do that area. Out in the desert, there's open riding areas where they have areas to where you can begin to ride and just have cones set up to where you can find a good area where you can cruise around and learn at your own speed. Hopefully you have family or friends that you can ride with. It's important to ride with people that are going to be understanding of you and work with you. That's important. So you don't want to be going out with the group that's just going, they're taking off for 5 hours on a big ride away from camp, and they don't want to take people that are just learning, which would be guys like me, right? So you want to go with a group that's going to have people that are going to stay at the camp, who want to work with people close. So find those kind of guys are the best kind of people that you can work with in your riding community to work with to ride. When you're learning to ride, and especially if you're learning yourself or with a child, you want to keep them away from blind situations where there's rises or mountains or hills where somebody could be coming over the other side on a bike, ATV or UTV, you want to stay away from those types of situations because bad things can happen. So those are things you really want to look for. When you get more skilled, then those situations, as a skilled rider, you're going to know where to be to try to avoid any type of potential accident like that. Okay, so when you're learning to ride yourself or with kids, sand and rocks can be your enemy. Those are two tough things to deal with. There's lots of other, problem areas, roots and muddy situations. Those all create problems, but rocks and sand make it tough to learn for beginners. So you want to try to get to the hardest pack area, but not on full gravel, because that turning on gravel can be difficult. So you want to find those situations when you can, and if you're teaching somebody on those gravelly situations, you want to be careful so they know what's going to happen to that front end as it washes out. Okay, so next, as you're progressing in bikes, you want to be able to get onto, say, a full-size bike like this. And once you're on a full-size bike like an XCF bike like this, this is a 350 XCF, it's a really good bike, then you're going to be able to start going into different areas, whether it's on the track or trail, and you want to make sure you have the appropriate tires for the conditions. And you can see this tire is a sand scoop tire that works really well in sandy conditions. It really gives a good hookup through those type of conditions. And so you can also have a trail tire. We have trials tires and also a gummy tire that will run like it's an AT81EX. Those types of tires will help guys in those tough trail conditions. So if you or your kid is looking to get into motocross, now after you've left that you've maybe learned in some basic areas or trail riding, if you're looking to get into motocross, you want to find a track that has a beginner, or they'll call them a vet track. You want to look at those types of places to go. And that would be a good place to start. Now the next suggestion after that would be a trainer or a coach. In most other sports, if you were to pick up tennis or swimming or anything, you would typically have a person you would learn from, a coach. In our sport, that doesn't seem to happen a lot. Your uncle or dad throws you out there and goes, here, pull the clutch in and take off. So that's a common thing. So don't be afraid to look for some support in your community. You can usually find an ex-pro rider or somebody who's doing some good schools. Out west here, there's some really good coaches, and some of those out there that could get you some good techniques, so you're learning proper techniques. Because that's the big thing is, if you learn poor techniques early, you're doing them the rest of your life like I do. And so you want to make sure that you can get rid of as many bad techniques early, so you at least have good techniques. Even if you're not going to be a pro rider, that doesn't matter. You want to have good techniques so you're less likely to have crashes and can enjoy yourself more while riding. And as far as the motocross track goes, one of the biggest things too is simply we had my buddy's kids out at the track last week at Glen Helen. We have them watching other riders and other riders on similar bikes to them. At certain points of the track, we'd watch them and point out the good techniques that they were doing, and that would help them improving. So just simply watching. And as you ride motocross, you're going to be able to go longer and longer at it and become a fun activity. So hopefully that helps you out as far as the motocross part of it. Okay, so if you're getting into this sport, we're glad to have you. And if you're going to teach your kid how to ride, yourself how to ride, and get a little bit more familiar with our sport, it's a really fun thing that can last a lifetime of fun. My kid and I will be riding until I can't ride any longer, hopefully, and it's a blast to be able to do so. So hopefully you enjoy it. You can pick out the right bike for you or your kid and find the right riding areas, but take your time and do so. Learn good skills, and it'll help you for a lifetime. onX Off-Road, know where to go with the #1 GPS app. Access 500,000 miles of trails and roads, open dates and public lands. The elite version even shows landowners and property boundaries. Download the onX Off-Road app. To save 20%, use the discount code DBTV1.